Maybe she also has some questions. All right. Let's start with a prayer to praise to Geshe. Obeisance to my Guru and Protector Geshe, holds his heart to scriptural text symbolics of his sins or things as they are. Whose understanding shines forth as the sun unclouded by defilements or traces of ignorance. Who teaches in 60 ways with the patient love of Father for his only Son. O creatures caught in the prison of samsara, confused in the darkness of their ignorance, overwhelmed by their suffering. You whose dragon thunder proclamation of Dhamma arises from the stupor of our delusions and frees us from the iron chains of our karma, whose powerful sword of wisdom hews our suffering wherever its sprouts appear, clearing away the darkness of all ignorance. I entreat you, Geshe, whose princely body is adorned with the 112 marks of a Buddha, who has completed the 10 stages, achieving the highest perfection of a Bodhisattva, who has been pure from the beginning. O Geshe, O loving one, with the brilliance of your wisdom, illuminate the darkness enclosed in my mind, enlighten my intelligence and wisdom, so I might gain insight into the Buddha's words and the texts that explain them. Sa shi po ki ju shi me to tam ri ram ling shi ni de gem pali sangye shindu mi te owa hiroku namda shin la chu pa shoi dang guru ratna mandala kandiyataya
Sangye
Chonam
Chodam
Tsogi
Tsojun
Chonam
Chonam
La
La
Chanchu
Chancho
Badu
Badu
Dani
Dani
Kyapsu
Kyapsun
Chi
Che Dagi
Dagi Chinyagi
Chonam
Bechonagi
Ye
Dola
Drolam
Penche
Penche Sangye
Sangye
Drupara
Drupa Sho
Sho Sangye Chodam
Chonam
Tsojun
Tsogi
Chonam
Chonam La
La
Chanchu
Chancho
Badu
Badu
Dani
Dani
Kyapsu
Kyapsun
Chi
Che Dagi
Dagi
Chuchi
Chinyagi
Gibin Tsonam
Bechonagi Dola
Drolam
Penche
Penche Sangye
Sangye
Drupara
Drupa Sho
Sho Sangye Chodam
Chodam
Tsojun
Tsogi
Chonam
Chonam
La
La
Chancho
Chanchu Badu
Badu Dani
Dani
Kyapsun
Kyapsu
Che
Chi
Dagi
Dagi
Chuchi
Chinyagi
Gibin
Bechonagi
Tsonam
Dola
Drolam
Penche
Penche Sangye
Sangye
Drupara
Drupa Sho
Sho Kangi Tuzinyi Zone Dawa Tamche Pambi Chere Tambi Chun Dunze Kodam Jela Changze Lo Good morning. Good morning, Jesus. Kumpengal mixation charge tester. Capsum Kundi Lama Kala Kanis in some trouble. Tenzelama Nala Chubba because Chayo Masa.
So yeah, okay, yeah, yeah.
Enjoy. Because some mother Sumba Devin Johnny. Temba give you Tendunga said Teresa.
So we're gonna pick up from where we left off yesterday. So we're looking at dedicating, so that so we will look today at dedicating so that the teachings, the source of bliss, spread. That is the third main point in the extensive explanation of dedication. So we've covered dedicating for the welfare of others, dedicating for one's own sake, for one's own welfare, and then dedicating so that the teachings, the source of bliss, spread. That's in verse 57.
Tadirita 다치던 거 참을로 개침부 짠장 레도스라 자스좀 쇼리 다치 내가 짠장 라야 잔 손디 아니 찍리 찍 개쳐 짠장 단 탈도 온디 아니 단 데빈 존니 아니 템바 기비 텐도 거 세디 다 양홀라는 요식 차고라스라.
So all those dedications are important. All the dedications made by Shantideva are important, and it seems that they are arranged according to the order of importance. So they become increasingly more important. Coming to verse 57, that comes under the heading of dedicating so that the teachings, the source of bliss, spread. That is really an unsurpassable dedication.
들다 디자다 데빈 존네 템바 기비 텐도 거세 다 산지 템바디 단 직딩 감기로 직딩 감기 안 데빈 존네 디 산지 템발야 투여레스 아니 대와 지비게 시츠바 야부치 용다 마용디 아니 템바 기마길야 라리그레스 디자 템바 기비 텐도 거자야 디페 마즈바 케침보 로 that dichik sungo rasra.
So the happiness and well-being in this worldly realm depends upon the teachings of the Buddha. So they depend upon the Buddha's teachings, and that constitute the basis for happiness and well-being that we as living beings experience. So in that light, then increasing or spreading the Buddha's teachings for us become vital.
There is that temba gi said temba thar temba gis the namgi tundu sunguyorasra that temba thar slaundi har sanji temba thi mesalaya temba di tsuktubayna ta temba tharbas ra ta dandi chalaya nga zamli yudu kasalaya ani sanji temba suyoras ta di sanji temba tharbaras ra ta pigi ta chi susu sabjolaya ani chi temba zingi ki tenzi yoba zamgi susu rangyolaya pendi ta khaburas tinza 다 템바 예고 그랬을런데 쪼디 랑귤이야 산지기 템바 카임바디 응원즘비 토니 딘디기 템바디 랑귤이야 아니 트렌투바이나 랑귤 렌투바이나 아니 템바 타리아데 약슈데 테레 템바 기에 약슈데 테레 딘디지 투바이나 다 아니 데와디 아니 랑랑기 응원데 시종기 데와 용야디 시자다 마스나 아니 축투어라스라 So we
use those terms to increase or to spread the Buddha's teachings. So when we think of spreading the teachings of the Buddha, they might take root in places in which the Dharma, the teachings, have not existed before. So in that sense, those teachings spread, right? Spreading to places that the Dharma did not exist before. Then in terms of increasing the teachings of the Buddha, well, you might in your own place have teachers or those who hold the teachings, but it is not necessarily the case that it will be of benefit to you. In a sense that to increase the teachings would mean to generate the teachings in your own mind, to give rise to the teachings in your own mind. And this is the best way to increase the teachings. So to establish them in your own continuum, to make them take root in your own continuum is the way to make sure that those teachings increase.
Terda ta temba jishi temba dikhares ro ta didang nanganzu ta manje ta kendo khawros ro junjung gon ta teri zoru yore ta sherbe lewe tsamado ta ani chi lew gotsam shigdi pishi ani ta mambu nye yoros ro di chidi gi ta sanji gi temba khaim ba di ta injimi ngun zin tuya chi go ta sanji gi temba di zu longdo gi temba ni ro longi temba slawndi 아니 라버숨 저저 집이기 아니 데누 다 가땡규 티기티 아 보드숨게 십게 치기어도 사말로 스마드나 띵힌두치 베나 아니 야 제바이나 아니 템방 엄마디 가리임바디 원전 투게지 요르와스로 안디 롱기 템바드리스 더 롱기 템바 아니 투숨 곰숨 제발라 때니 디 저제 집이기 아니 지 사버숨 수름 길라바 땡이진 길라바 세나 쌈댕 길라바 세나 아니 셰르브 길라바 투숨디 아니 똑비 템바세디 로 tisumdu tobi tembares tobi tembadi ta rangule ki koni teni ani deva druptanchi devi savadi ani sabasumdi devin joni said sabasum dirwasra
So to increase the teachings in one's own continuum. So we might wonder, what are those teachings? What are we talking about when we speak of increasing the teachings in one's own continuum? Well, we're going to finish with Shantideva's Guide to Bodhisattva Way of Life today or tomorrow. Or today we're going to finish the last two verses. Apart from the 9th chapter, which we will leave for later time, we've covered 9 chapters of this guide, and we have spoken a lot about the teachings of the Buddha. So in short, the teachings of the Buddha are of 2 types. There are teachings as scriptures and teachings as realizations. So the teachings as scriptures teach the 3 collections of teachings, the 3 repositories of teaching. So we can also extend on that and look at the 300 or 400 volumes of both the Kangyur and Tengyus, the teachings of the Buddha, and the commentaries that were based on them. These are the teachings as scriptures, teaching the 3 repositories of teachings. Then we have, and it depends upon those teachings as scriptures, then we can come to recognize what the Buddha taught. And then we study, reflect, and meditate on those teachings as scriptures. And the subject matter of those teachings as scriptures are the 3 trainings: training in ethical discipline, training on concentration or absorption, if you will, and training in wisdom. So when we then study, reflect, and meditate on those teachings and give rise to them in our own mind stream, we develop teachings as realizations. And those teachings as realizations contribute to our happiness and well-being, which means that our happiness and well-being depends upon giving rise to the 3 trainings in our own mind stream.
Teresha dinza ta tobi temba ani labasum rangulaya chunsuti ta chunju nangolaya ani pe masiba ta 띵사부 쇼진 송여로스라 비기 진소 파신 주기 냠nen디 진소 파신 주기 냠nen디 아니 사버숨 랑귤이야 아니 준숙을 토니 송여버드 베시우리스라 수름 비기게 아니 사비시마 수름 야부시 용열이야 아니 진비 냠nen스라나 말나 똥이 셈바 간지 르똥 제거야디 르똥 제거야디 르똥 제바들이야 짐바 세도스라 아니 르똥 제거야디 르땅 마투나 송고야디 송투야 자원이니 요마레스 딘자 아니 수름 기시 약부 수야라야 아니 지 내가 르똥 같이 거버디 아니 르똥 제거야 진비 냠nen란 주고야라 다 르똥 제온디게 아니 고께와 토모메반디 kom시 독자 여반자 그 레하우지 메반자 델야 아니 동nen진이 서버된 거야 로 서버된 비린이야 강가 슈전자 대배 종주 점친으로 종주 점비 종주 된 절로 많이 son은 종주 점친 깔레 갸니 서버건 거야 다 딘디 지토바이나 아니 비기 샘체지도 네바 샘체지도 네비게 아니 셰럽 야오페야 아니 셰럽 토니 싸마리고 쥐 투수디 야시자다 연구여라스 라 딘트리치 랑귤라야 축투바이나 아니 템바 기바레스 데윈 존이 차고레스 라
So then to develop such realizations depends upon the development of the 3 trainings in our own mind stream. And this is what we've discussed in the teachings of Shantideva's Guide to Bodhisattva of Life, those profound sets of teachings in which Shantideva taught the 6 perfections such as generosity. So it is clear that the goal is to give rise to the 3 trainings in our own mind stream and our own mental continuum. And the base for that to begin with is the training in ethical discipline. Now, training in ethical discipline in turn depends upon practicing generosity. And to develop generosity means that we need to give rise to a mind of relinquishment or to relinquishing mentally certain things. This is what generosity means. We mentally relinquish certain things. If we're, and we can see how it is hard for us often to mentally relinquish certain things in order then to practice generosity. We find it hard because since that beginning and up until now, we haven't been used to mentally relinquish certain things. So if we are incapable of relinquishing them, it'd be hard to guard our ethical discipline. So we work with difficulties because we find it not easy, which means that we also practice patience. And we initiate joyous effort in our hard work in order to do so. And in so doing, we also develop a single pointed mind. Through that, we increase the wisdom, which allows us to abandon or to eliminate ignorance, which means that these are the source of our happiness and well-being.
남균이 즉 상로래야 원니 즉 스슴 세다 종주 세드 메나 라 간이 제투문다 당한도 때든다 냠냠 토니 셰바나 아니 자위가 간절이야 즉 닌지 기야기 닌지 뚜야기 니바요레 셰럽 뚜야기 니바요레 셴라 펜도 지야기 니바 간주 밀라 야자 야타마 요르와스 아니 즉 소주 비기게 소수 데버드야기 니바요레 제데 니바디 멤버 셰발야 네버도 서바다 송줄에 땡고야티 라 아니 딜라브제 약슈 간지 미지키부 지용고초나 아니 서박 당고도스라 서베 만담마이나 아니 지 깔카고벤다다 간지 서베 만담마이나 아니 가이 아니 만드베지 차가도스 아니 서베 냠도 송주여바이나 아니 르모투야지 싸워니니다 메이서레스라
So we need to think about it regularly. Without patience, without joyous effort, we're not going to be able to accomplish it. And we can see that based upon our personal experience. We have the ability to cultivate compassion. We have the ability to give rise to wisdom. We certainly 100% certainty that we have the ability to be of benefit to others. We have the ability to develop a happiness and well-being. But all of these abilities depend upon our ability to cultivate patience and joyous effort. We need to develop a sufficient degree of patience. Without having sufficient patience, we're not going to be able to accomplish it. And the same thing can be said also with respect to effort. Without effort, we're not going to be able to do it.
딘자다 백탁전 슈투야라야 난줄라 고에 비기 데윈 종니디 아니 수좀 삼딘 셰럽섬디 다 타바드 탐진기미 콤본 덩이질이야 공이진데 디차고레스 다 디비기 탑디 유튜브 써니니 메바 야차 야타마 셰투야디 아니 점바 서바 종주섬디 티투 송제 토니 냠스랑바이나 아니 드마투야기 타바드 탐지 김이 공부 짜오니 요 말이스. 로 두두고 그랬어.
And therefore, we have to have the training in ethics, in concentration, and in wisdom in order to attain liberation and enlightenment. And in order to accomplish that, we need generosity, patience, and effort. If we cultivate generosity, patience, and joyous effort, it's not that the state of liberation or enlightenment will become impossible for us. There will be possible.
그래서 딘스다 아니 드로이 동을 면직부 대바 탐진 종이니 템바니 세 템바니 바디 템바 랑귤니 바 니기 템바디 아니 람사바숨 로 어디 딘디기 람사바숨이야 아니 직 퇴숨롬니 칭이기 직 겐둥 데라 소바 유림부 아니 내나 직딩 감기 디기려야 야차자담바 펜동 바시기 반자 안 두수 내야기 체도 아니 로규 꾸디 칭일로 소바 인지미 고고도 아스라 어두수 체도다 유린 내규칙세 딘지 몰람 자야렌도스.
So then looking at verse 57, it says, not sure that I'm sharing it right, let's see. Right. May the sole medicine for the sufferings of migrating beings, the source of all happiness, the teachings together with gain and honor, remain for a long time. So we wish them to remain for a long time because we recognize them as the source of all happiness. So in order then to assist the remaining of those teachings for a very long time, we need to give rise to them in our mind stream, in our continuum.
Terza di da jela sari tan jewe na gewa chingi yebi tobla tennis drovi donga thamchi sewala dameba jenda meba minchi budi drovi deva thamji jongwi ne thamba sanji chomden di temba londo ki temba nyeba tan kurde de jedi yurimbo kowa chisi pardo never kyuchis.
Sorry, just a second. Now looking at the commentary to this section, it says, it depends on whatever virtue there is. May the soul unrivaled mental medicine for all sufferings, the holy source from which every happiness of migrators arises, the teachings of the Buddha Bhagavan abide with praise and high regard for a long time until the end of cyclic existence.
Tinzata takadin just tembigon chatsavasat. Tinza tindigi temper tuma mebati and in Anzolaya Nangi and it temper tumbi ombu zubi that choji javased the cheba, thousand the Jizun Jambi and the soba. And this Hajan garden chimbu imbati, similar tembigoni, and Tuji Chishuagata, Chapiatris.
And this chapter is completed with paying homage by recalling the kindness in verse 58. So we pay homage by recalling the kindness, first of all, of the Buddha, the Bhagavan, the teacher. Then we can say the Buddha and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions, and also Manjushri.
Pena chances laundi, Jidun Jambi and the chancelos, Nina, Kangi Tingi gave Lonjong, Jambi and the chancelos. Manzugula Yachik, one Kavi Kunjosung Tsubi, Lama Java said the Javala Yachik, and the Tepatis Chik Yon to a give Lodi, Jidun Jambi and Cardinal Den, Sanjum Den the Cardinal Den, Lama Givish Cardinal Den, Choma Remado, Randabgi, Sawanin let to Yachik Mevas Ra. Tinti tembi toni kadin tembi chat segugres.
So the last verse says, I prostrate to Manjughosha, by whose kindness virtuous minds arise. I prostrate also to my virtuous friends, by whose kindness I develop. So the kindness of the three jewels, the kindness of the victors, the Buddha. Through the kindness, through Manjughosha, through Manjushri, we can give rise to virtue in the mind stream. As it says, I prostrate to Manjughosha, by whose kindness virtuous minds arise. We also then pay homage to the lamas, the spiritual friends, for without them, we also would not be able to give rise to virtue in our mind stream.
Terda pigita dindi shuj pig kaden to samashi by naya. And Jitun Jambiang, Saint Jobo Koranlaya, and Chinab Kabarchi. Raw, and dindi tending Yungu Saris. Raw.
And even if we cannot think a lot about their kindness, even if we just think of the name of Manjushri, through that, Geshe Reckon staff will also receive a huge amount of blessing.
The Kong Karius Lahena, Kong di Nanzu Tsenga Dangos in Shu, Kishimujin Sungudasra, Tsenga di, and Tsen Ran Joya de Rendosta, Dorduna, Tsen Joyat, Pen Sanji Chomden Tsengas Laundi, and Tumba Chimbo said, Tembo Tumbiombo, Kanji Tembo Tumbiombo di, Tembo Tumbiombo Tsenra, Tembo Tumbiombo sent the Jodebina. Tembo Tumbiombo was sent the Jodidi, and Nalayan Saint Juyore, and Lugu Kuba Yungure, Semla, and Tembo Tumbiombo Chanchi Yungrasta, Lunga Yisum Tembo Tumbiombo let Tetubina. Tembo Tumbiombo Chile di Rangsing Pim Bemegi Juyonhaji, then the Chagosaris. Timatongan Sanga Jadangol, Boom Drangol, Dangwigi. Godenjoros, Penangan Miji Bana, meet me the Kaduna and could sheriff love there and the sheriff Mani running Kira, Ningro, and Yen Robo Machi Ranji to the Kira. Yimata Kuchi Cheras Latin Machi Ranji Kiro, did it?
Contra
Samarda. Kansajal Ninjiro, that to summer son. Contra Savan, those no you to such a Tishero, Tizoras, Katina Sanji sent Jedevana. Pig Sanji Trility Mana Nazareth. Then the Chagos are sounding here, showing Sanga down there, Sanga down, and Sanga turned the piggy and Tevin the Chondris into Sanga Mamushuchi. And two Sanga the two Gurundi, San Rama the Jama Mrs. Kimando. Manda, Tatu sound down by now. Then Delia Gavjung Lord Gidoji. Nima Janagi, Tawajiki, Kaduna Omo talks at the Pig Sanji said that. Good Mexicorana, good to the Gomban and Kishing Jerem, the cage and the Brody. Kaduna Omotos Pig Sanji. Can't some Jilla cook be any round of Topji, any Tommy Kabdula Dinga, than the Montucho on the Yamujilas, got a round of Topji. She Kabdula round so much in the Dorsa. The Gacha Jadanga each leg this raw. Kadu in the Sanji Saint Jodevana Sanji Kasoda Such Mazir Raji Care Zindu never did the Martin chick. Then till I quote Javaji Saris raw.
So even if we just recite the name mantra of Manjushri, even without thinking a lot or extensively about Manjushri, we will attain great blessings. Now, the source for saying that is simply just through looking at the recitation of the name mantra of a certain deity or a certain being. Like, for example, we sometimes recite the name mantra of the Buddha, the Bhagavan, or Muni Muni Mahamuni, right? So Mahamuni, the great teacher, or the great able, the great Rishi. So we repeat the name, and in those name mantras, you can say that there's nothing but the mean names of those great beings. So when we recite them, of course, we recite them with our speech, and with our body, we show a token of respect, of veneration. And if we do that also with a mind, there's a certain state of mind that is being generated. So if we then do those recitations, not only with a speech, but also with our body and mind involved, we're going to be able to invoke those enlightened activities. Those enlightened activities will be flowing naturally and spontaneously. So often we have those practices in which we recite hundreds, thousands of recitations of name mantras. And through, for example, reciting the name mantra of the Buddha, if you do it for so many times, then of course the Buddha will give you his attention, or the enlightened activities of the Buddha will flow. It's like Geshe said that if you think of reciting the name of a particular person for so many, so many times, hundreds of thousands of times, like, for example, Sherab, right? So every day you're going to, call upon Sherab kind of a lot of times, Sherab, 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 and kind of with a request to be helped. And now, of course, the person is going to turn their attention to you. I asked Geshe, no, if you do it many times a day, then wouldn't that person become irritated with you? And Geshe said, no, they're going to still be approach you with with a token of kindness, particularly when you think about it in relation to the Buddha, rather than half-heartedly or with this sound of irritation hitting your requests. Anyway, here we're looking at the recitation of the name mantras of certain deities or certain beings, Buddhas, and so forth. Someone told Geshe, a Chinese woman told Geshe that in one of the temples that she frequented, there was a monk that was the sweeper of the temple. And all day long, as he was doing his chores, he was reciting the name mantra of Amitabha, Buddha Amitabha. And he did it to the extent where when he died with showing signs of having complete control. Right, so Geshe says that, at least in his mind, he has full confidence that such is possible.
어디래 딘자 상기 응원이 심진 그 동할 세야기 네바 용수 조요랬더라. 네바 용수 조. 네바 창상 요랬어. 다 심진 응원이 비기지 안주 라바도 마서는 창사직 매나? 아니 라바 친구연 펜도스 기어 말았어라. 라바 창사로 어디? 아니 다 톱나다 비기게 사바송 냠렌티 요나? 아니 상기야 틱 대부 쇼직로 아니 초진 참 게니 주사 지기요나 람산야 틱 두개 중으로 뒷매바는 산지가 센치고 저대바네 될 때니 아니 다 주사다 마선나 아주 남기 아니 산기 아니 산기 짝게 될야 아니 심진기 대비 아무 거세대 무슨 냉가래도스러 들다 산기 샘띵니 대바고 거다스러 대비도네 산지 센치고 저대바이네요. 개체 개다면께나 아니 개와치만 드비니 모델이야. 로데만 개와치만 비기 덴롤이야. 지 배준치 무고톤 기투기여서리스. 로 개체 개다면 딩아디 개체 개다면 이지여서라.
So the Buddha has complete ability to dispel our suffering. And yet we need to take the Buddha by the hand. In a sense of if we do not reach out and hold it with our hand, although the Buddha has the ability to completely dispel our suffering, that will not come to pass. And to reach out and take the Buddha's hand would mean at best to give rise to the three trainings in a mind stream. So in all directions that we turn, in the four directions, in the intermediate directions, there are those Buddhas which we can reach out to, hold the hand, and then give rise to those trainings in the mind stream. And if we cannot do that, then if we just recite the names of those Buddhas, it's just like providing a hook that is provided by faith to the enlightened activities of the Buddha to operate in the mind stream. So we said before that the Buddha sends out their enlightened activities, which are like hooks. But those hooks need something to hook upon, and what they hook upon is the faith that we develop in our mind stream. So even if we cannot develop the 3 trainings in our mind stream, even if we just recite those names of the Buddha, we at least can ensure that upon our death we'll die with an easier, good state of mind that will lead us well to our next lifetime. That depends upon the trust or the faith that we have in them.
대단 디노 강기 튕기 게론 좀 잠비야라 창즈로서 대다 로 안간주 길이야 비지 년종 찬주그 셈 동반이 또비셔럽 슬라운디 데스지 아니 코와 and di ton 지 셈레야 지 초데스 레투야기 기빌로 데스 용투야디 아니 수카데리스 소조란타 수치라 마덴바 딘디 종요르베스나 사바니니 타 요마르와스 타디 제준 잠비앙기 무스 칭길라비 라마기비시니라 테니 종요바디 야체 갸탐바르와스 야체 갸탐바 베낭안주다 벤당한도는다 가드나 아니 정글로 중가바 침볼이야 소바타 티 송레야 직 소수기다 직 남주그 만다나마도 가주투도 체데도 스테데디 아니 라마중가바기 직 총총이 되려야 아니 기위신이 망불라데 디 나니 쪼디 아니 지존 렌다와라야 땡치니 아니 지존 렌다와라야 피기게 아니 파바제르시 지존 잠비야 탐지기베 아니 초주도 디비 옹라야 아니 시제 아니 소와타니 아니 미즈마 두스치니 아니 제바레 시그도아 라 미메제베 데진체르시 티미키미 오모 잠비야 도보말린 잠자 상여다 간친키 비존 렌다와 신 오디 아니 손데디 도스 제바레스 다 딘디게 아니 소와타 아니 메바체발 테니 타르 지존 잠비야 베 미드 미낭시치니 샤지치니 테니 동아 네 탐지 지존 잠비야라야 우스테니 아니 투길라 총지 총여바디 남들날다 세우차고레스라 이 난주 딘디 체바이나 직바라스라
So if we develop some understanding of the 3 principal aspects of the determination to live cyclic existence, of bodhicitta, the mind of enlightenment, of wisdom that realizes the correct view of emptiness, then we can not only develop them as some understandings, but we can also develop them to the point in which they affect our mind. And when they affect our mind, we can ask ourselves, is it that we can do it just on our own accord without the kindness of others? Or does it depend upon the kindness of others? Well, it depends upon the kindness of our spiritual teachers, the lamas, who in turn are blessed by Manjushri, receive the direct blessings of Manjushri. And Geshe said that in his personal practice, he does supplications to the great master Lama Tsongkhapa. And still, without Geshe said that he himself hasn't developed sufficient wisdom, and yet still when he supplicates Lama Tsongkhapa, follows Lama Tsongkhapa, in thinking of the life story of Lama Tsongkhapa, who had many masters, one of them is Jetsun Rendawa. And Lama Tsongkhapa viewed Jetsun Rendawa to be inseparable in entity from Arya Chenrezig and Manjushri and so forth. In fact, Lama Tsongkhapa composed the verse Mixima in relation to Jetsun Rendawa. Mingmetsewa Teche Chenrezig Jimmy Kembe Wampo Jumping Yang, Dubu Malo John Sang with that. Kanchin Kembe Jetsun Shunu Rendawa, right? So in the 4th line, it was Lama Tsongkhapa was focusing on the youthful Rendawa. And through the practice of Guru Yoga, in which he supplicated his own teacher, has seen his own teacher as being a treasure of compassion, as being Chenrezig, master of stainless wisdom, being Manjushri, and so forth. At some point, it depends upon that. He was able to see Manjushri face to face, like meeting another person in person, and was able to receive instructions from him. This is very clear from the life story of Lama Tsongkhapa. And then if we follow similar steps, we also going to be able to do just the same.
대다도 손디게 안 제전한다와게 디 손디디 안 케랑라 외군도스 진 간지 안 제로무치레 추 센드 추균 간진키 비추긴 쫑가보 로산타베샬로 소원데스 시투스 규르치니 안 도스체네 손데 미즈마디 안 도스 총교레스 다디 용다라스라 다디 용다라스라.
So this verse Mixima is quite known to having been composed by Lama Tsongkhapa and towards his spiritual teacher, Shunu Rendawa. Then Rendawa turned to Lama Tsongkhapa and said that actually this verse is suitable for you. So Rendawa himself, Jetsun Rendawa, changed the verse and turned to Lama Tsongkhapa, changing the fourth line. Kanchin Kebet Sugin Tsongkhapa, Losandrapa Shabla Sowa Deb.
대다 레베나 다게 기위신이 캬바체 간식 팅기 찬주고 샘공바타 조벌로 로바타 대다 조저체니 땡주 준비 기위론조이 다게 잠비양라 찬젤로스.
Now looking at the commentary to the last verse, it says, I prostrate to the special virtuous teacher Manjushri, the empowering condition through whose kindness the meditation on bodhicitta and then training in the actions as well as the virtuous awareness to compose the treatise, taking this as a subject arose.
The gangi tingi darwa geviselawan dachasels.
So this passage was related to the first two lines in this verse. Now the last two lines in this verse say, I also prostrate to the virtuous teacher through whom one develops.
네, 단디 쓰우쇼레서 강기 튕기 다 라발라 거바타 퇴숨 곰숨로 소비 또버기비 거니 다기 결라 기비 촉 다른 집이 기비 신년라야 다 찰살로스.
The commentary says, I also prostrate to the virtuous friends through whose kindness I was inspired to engage into the trainings and who gave strength for the virtuous side by generating the realizations of listening, contemplating, and meditating in my continuum.
레원 타만디 내가던 타두기 맨내 남수 domba tragbu gyawar chibi ngwe khabar tu cheni lu lonju geza shendun dongyi jambala lobsu gebar shechi kondu ya pargosu jambala lobsu shebi jambala lobi lewu ta surd lebar manzeba inos jimbi lewu se surd manzeba di ko ani tsu ngowi nanglola ya nembuchin chik son yore ani kaukawla da son yobanza digres jevena tisungda.
In the commentary, it says the last chapter explains elaborately the training in the generosity of giving away body possessions and roots of virtue for the purpose of others, with a dedication taking as the object and transforming them with strong aspiration into the temporary and ultimate objectives of prayer. Since the training in generosity was also explained earlier, I did not write a separate chapter on generosity. So of the sixth perfection, the perfection of generosity was not allocated a separate chapter. It was taught in the 10th chapter, but also some of the perfection of generosity were taught before in previous chapters.
Tuzum gombi gewa chiyo tang chagdan chobazum ki gewa rong gewa namya seba meba tang kondu pershir ngowe gemba chi dubi tsuks chebos chidi lokdan tis kenzari chag dubi tsuks chebos.
Now the summarizing stanza says, whatever virtue there is from listening, contemplating, and meditating, whether it is the mere virtue of prostration or offering, to make all virtues inexhaustible and to increase them, I adorn them effortlessly with dedication. This is the condensed explanation, or this is the summarizing stanza.
레위체니 잔주 셈비 쩌발은 죽발레 ngōshishebe lewe tu chubos.
This is the 10th chapter of dedication of the introduction to the Bodhisattva's way of life.
잔주 셈비 쩌발은 죽비 남시에 야신 중어 시샤발레 용숭어베 레we 시샤바디 lewe chubin 제와오 시야.
Now, there's just one more line that is found here in our commentary. It was not translated into in the commentary that we're using here. It just says that the chapter that is called the thorough dedication, the complete dedication, has been just explained in this chapter.
10번 주기 ten라니 ten주 강긴 제바당 강기 교비 출로 당부 ten주 강긴 제바니 잔주 셈비 쩌발은 주고 레베 셴디비 셴디데베 제바 조소스.
There's there are a couple of other pages that we have in a commentary that are not found in this translation. So I'll just try to do a rough translation as Geshe will read through that. So first of all, there are 2 points that are made in this section. First of all, is explaining the way in which this treatise, Shantideva's Guide to Bodhisattva Way of Life, was written, and the way that it was translated. Now, beginning with the way that this treatise has been composed, then the commentary says that this introduction to the deeds of Bodhisattvas, or Shantideva's Guide to Bodhisattva Way of Life, was composed by the master Shantideva. Okay. Well, I guess I said that there's no real need to translate all the sections here. So just to give us the transmission, we'll read through this section.
잔주스미 쩌발은 주고 레벤 전부 셴디데와 10월날 시샤와 지존 잠비 연기 우수 지수 손신 야세 치민 타워신 돌니 응어스비 쩌버토만데 데미 잔주스미 쩌버저고 제바 캬버드 nen줄라미 기슌드 트미 기쩌버 젠 도지창의 공방 드번 제바 디 제바타 디 치든 레버 셰버 조수 니버 관계기 춘 야거기 캠보 사원 갸나 대와탄 수진 일로자 펜디페지키 카지 벨리 슈디 때는 페벌 해기 야거기 캠보 다마시르 반다드 수진 일로자 펜데린지 som보다 샤지로디 유위기 빼단 제와도 톰바 쯔신 규드 때는 페보양 뒤치 야거기 캠보 수만디 크트 다 수진 일로자와 경로된 시르기 다버를 쯔신 규드 레버 때는 페보고 야거기 캠보 사원 갸나 대와 탐지 캠보 하던 수진기 로자와 펜디페지기 카지 벨리 슈디 때는 페벌리 해기 야거기 캠보 다마 시르반드 쉐벌 상보다 수진기 로자와 렌지 좀비 레버 규제 슈디 때는 페벌 해기 야거기 캠보 샤자 로드의 로자와 렌지 좀비 유위기 빼다 제와던 톰바터리 규제 쯔데 때는 페벌양 뒤치 바유기 벤드다 페보 벤다다와 탐지 캠보 우추 타바 수막들 레비 로드 잡아도 100kg 잡아 샤지게 론덴 셰르기 카지페던 뜬 레버주시 교디 친이기 때는 배고 교기 잡아 잠바던 제위 규기 짜증을 야면도 만도 한시 잡아라 야면도 도만 한 되는 쉽지 거보 틈비 두주 저기 권노실 셰르브튼 이젠데 말은 좀 빠오친 부자스 시월이 용기 쓰던 잠시 레버시 문제 좀 남시 망유견 깔민 소주 줄을 지진도 판초군기 저버 차벨은 된전 타드 지진 살만이 소미 취기전의 라마다 투지 왕규 로드 긴 통시 잡외도 초주 초버지 신인 담비 레버 셰벌 된전 타드 지 의미 등 공부 로드 셰버 지진도 상지견다 다와 다자 시위로 공부 찍고 지진 싸워시 자스 담비 손 또버까 로드 냠총 잠비 또 멤비 가든들 네번 초치는 라마라지는 유서번절 뎀베게와 랍거치유티 시지고버치 로완남 장주 섬주 접은 대슈니 매년 양년 대보 토버쇼 다잔티는 새로 탐주 투미투주나 양단 뇌지데 장주 섬도 나야 맞죠 당주 때라 님불 램버쇼 장주 섬이 접은 집에 남지 야진 중에 시작은 드로드민 잠바 담보 너무 숨다 댐시 동아지 좀 만도 티비 바로 숨바 라마 추고 손은 바위냐 렌토머 거다 템버롱부지 쿤즈미 민 나신 동아 유디비 종기 네토머 투스신의 라버스음의 제주슨 좀바 신이 남가 상보와다 라마 자세와 니지 den컴 또는 보 메도드 집이 양양꽃이 캐벌도 라마 자세와 메도 야치모드 지 네체를 꼬올라 때니 갸베 리루 버침부 지존 담바 꾸마라 민티 샹가니 니두지 탐지 캠버 첨부 로산트라베 퍼슨비 샹가니 니지 샵지들 유린도 주도비 까달레 때니 리바마와 게노 타마린진 도로와 게덴 남바지비 닌도 자오 얘기반도 domzo 되는 좀버린지 최gel로 디겐 템버rum부치 고 탐진이 초 탐지 다신기라 유린도 네버 큐르치스 umsudin pendin jonu jaden yongdu jan rabgin drogon tamjon rezanla choshi tashil chodachi chojun zemi tandru günde pel seva mangalam namru shivi gamzu roji du jami de chuzdan sigi sema reje tüsungi tuma yongdu pardu tumbi namgun pumbi de yanda chugi gumu tonda jin dandu jungun joma ngelen novin zola onju jin zamli yambi kyanla semi shivi lamde namde shaje singi rilu gokon ne geba son teyu lenzo tumi chetumi nanden tunda rimi yusor da pardu tunda tungür kanla jorchobi ge music to shaji gejon chema wanga loso tenzin gamzu jawa was toji chet ngwan mate chiglogira.
So thank you very much. Geshe, I've read through the last section of the text, which explained briefly how Shantideva composed this text, and then very extensively the different people that have passed on the teachings and translated the teachings from Indian language to Tibetan and so forth, and the way that it came at the end to get to Dhammarinchen. So Geshe read through that section, including a few verses of dedication. And now, as a token of auspiciousness, Geshe will go back to the beginning of the text and read just a few lines or maybe a page or two. This is a token of auspiciousness.
자가르게도 보디사다 아요 아와타라 벽에도 찬주스비 쪼벌은 죽바 쪼벌은 죽바 대시 취기공은 쓰지던 차외 꼴라고 급이 차 설때 대시 쓰기 doml은 죽바니 롱신 도드는 저버차 혼제 마저와연 대주미 대중 개봉 달라 요미때 대시 전던 상방와 달라메 랑기엘라 공시 닌데 좀 개와 공시 다기 티비슈 데다 기냐 리싱 펜귤라 다단 까와냠바 신이제 찌든 데단 돈의 퇴연규 단준도는 이버신도까 개위턴도 토번지와라 가든들란 편범어르나 신의 양단 저와 갈란 규르.
Geshe read through a few verses from the first chapter from Shantideva's text.
다음 말에
지선디라 치워카시죠. 거기서 산인 채나 그런 삼나.
카드친 누가 개월쯤은 산친도 됐어.
그런데 그래. 단도 채나 산인 채나.
산이 지요요라. 산치오라. 산치원데 디샤는 간주다 조주디 셔럽 레오들 사요르마도 아니 레오 셴벌 레오 고디로 지 양송갈 뒤집에 야고 진짜 완자 다들 깨기로 돈은 요를 마셔 완자 추즈 두기야사지르라 아니 지 소주 마시는 마도 찬장 직마 쉐야 고급라야디 닝원의 단위 샘띵이 아니 투지치 쉐야 데버유스.
So we have a few questions that people prepared, and since we have a session tomorrow, we will do those sessions tomorrow rather than today. So Geshe wanted first of all to thank you guys for allowing him to take the time to teach through Shantideva's Guide to Bodhisattva Way of Life. So we have looked at nine chapters out of the 10 chapters of this text. And rather than rushing through some of the sections, we gave Geshe the leisure of looking at those verses not in a rushed way. Geshe said that I was not nasty to him and in trying to in kind of trying to rush him through the different texts. So thank you everyone for allowing Geshe to take the time to teach this text.
다 장무셨는데 다 아니 개중간이 돈에 배 아니 강용 지용친 라 쉬야 고급 라야디 당가랑 건 건저 왜 마스가 까와 상부질이야 지기스 딘디 레테는 안줄이야 땡땡 게자 침비지 총요레스 당간 삼매줄이야 여 타주요레스 딘디 게잘 때네 종규 아니 존주 레우고바라 레우고바 셰르고 레우디 아니 지 안주 냠르고 토니 아니 셰야 고급 지용의 쇼세 직당 되네 주 아니 다 ngan samalo ya kadin chendi ani gyawrum chi tsebi riks ma chi bi ani lama ke tang chu chagores ra is tu ani kutsirimbu shuya ta ani tugi shegon tada ani pe ani geme tar druya gi ani malam gad pe khisham bros ra tindil tembi ani jigding kamgi phi chi 다 네무 추츠 라소비다 직갱에 뭐가리 어느 투수 참아 시치니 아니 가서다 잠니 시디첸 용의 쇼스 난중은 물론 야구에 들어왔으라
At least Geshe said that we, himself and myself, are fortunate to have had the time to look at this text and to teach it, translate it, explain it to others. So certainly we have created together roots of virtue. So we're very fortunate to have been able to do that. Now we have one chapter left, the 9th chapter, the chapter on wisdom. And we have hopes and aspirations that all of us might be able to come together again to study together the 9th chapter out of Shantideva's text. Now, such teachings are possible because we are guided by Lama's spiritual teachers, beginning with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and also Lamas from across all traditions. And that being the case, we wish for all of them to have a long life so that all their intentions and hopes might come true without hindrances and without obstacles. And together with that, we also make aspirations for different problems that afflict the world, such as sickness, conflicts, lamentations, and so forth. May all of them abate, and may the world enjoy peace and prosperity.
then thank you so much, Venerable, full ordination. Translator. You are a very good translator. I think this is my karma.
I feel sorry for you.
and be yausonsra. One gawis. Tenda dirila ya chi pi chashang and legaching tanganzu and chuji like Kalipe Javaris. And Samaloya kanji Samaloya tangi ming medevana and ming chedo chus kiomaros. Kanji Samaloya chuzo legaching goju pasu Samaloya and toji chesra and it's ngadojlaya tindig kogoya would heady narang on the Samuel Devarochik. Yungudus.
So apart from mentioning my name, Geshe said that there are also many other people that have worked hard in making those teachings available and possible. So there are people here belonging to this group, to this course, that have worked hard, tirelessly in order to make that possible. And it is impossible for Geshe to mention all the names. It feels that actually if he tries to mention all the names, there will be someone that will be left out, So Geshe mentioned Chuki and others. But not only the people that are here, but also the staff members of the center and other volunteers and so forth that have made these teachings possible to us. Without them, we would not have been able to study this module. So thank you very much, everyone.
Then the logic in any 장무신나 군뱅기 배 마시파 피기기 아니 로버치기도 칼라서야 짬어서야 배디 가시 조심은 아니 직다 어디서 아니 주조된 저와차기도 쓰라 그래서 아니 말에 펜도배 용도도
And also in recent year, Geshe mentioned Kumpen, who has been helping Geshe with cooking and cleaning, doing all those things, all these types of help with diligence and also very well. So also now there's a special connection between Kunpen and the center.
Yeah, thank you, Mare.
Yeah, so thank you. So thank you very much. So we'll leave this session here for now. I think that we might forgo the afternoon tutorial because Geshe taught only 2 verses, and I feel that I don't have much to add on top of what Geshe said. Sorry? What about discussion? What do you think? You can discuss. All right. All right, so there will be a discussion session. I mean, I also have to say that I'm going to a funeral this afternoon, and I might be back by 3. So if you guys, should we have a tutorial or not? What do you think? Do we have enough to discuss?
Give yourself a break, Carson.
All right. All right. Thank you. So let's leave it here for now.
You're welcome. Thank you.
What about tomorrow's meditation?
What about tomorrow meditation? Do we have a meditation tomorrow morning? Yes.
Yes, please.
Yes, we do. Sorry? Tomorrow at 10:30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Geshe session is at 10:30, and we also have meditation 9:30. Thank you. All right, let's do the dedication prayers. Gewadi nyudu da lama sangye drugyune rowa chikyam malupa de salago pa sho chanchu semchu rinpoche magye panan ke gyuchi kepa nyamba me paya gone gondu pewa sho kangri rawe kowe shikamni pendan dewa malu juwe ne chenre siwan tenzin gyatso I shapre site bardu tengyu chi. There's another one. Toni ninja sunju jupe lang cheche seje kanchen ten rugun chana pemo tenzin gyatso la sowa depso shendun lunju jo tu tsu jan chin jangun gyawe tenzin kyon pe we kunzo do po tse Chosun kowe le mondu du pahada sodu je gundu shaten sho. Thank you.